Hello, my name is Sarah, and I am your chakra coach. On this podcast, we'll be exploring how the chakra system can help guide you to grow your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness, leading you closer to your highest self. Hello, everyone. We are back after a week off for the U.S. holiday, and I'm happy to be recording again. I really do love putting this together every week. It takes hours for every episode, which seems wild since in the end they're only about 20 minutes long. But nevertheless, a few hours each week, I get to really dig deep into a chakra concept or something related and then bring it to you. I really do enjoy it. Even when it's hard, I enjoy it. But isn't that true about so many things? Sometimes the hardest things are the most rewarding. And sometimes the hard things are just hard. Part of the work that I'm doing on myself is trying to determine where I draw that line. And that's what this value series is all about in sort of an indirect way, where we're trying to identify what is the most important to us and then spend most of our energy there. What gets us closer to what we value, gets us closer to our truest nature. And even though we're going through 3 or 4 values or ideals for each chakra, which will leave us with well over 20 things to consider, not all of them can be the most important. That wouldn't make any sense. What we're trying to do is figure out the top 1, 2, maybe 3, and focus there, knowing that the top of the charts will change throughout our lives, which is why we need to stop and do this exercise, this work once in a while. I'm not asking us to value every single thing as a top priority. We don't have the energy for that, and it doesn't make logical sense anyway. So, as you listen to the episodes, just explore the response in your body to the idea of each value. If you hear one, and as you're thinking on it, your body relaxes into it, you'll know that's your truth. If you hear one and you think, oh, yes, that should be my top priority, you'll know that it isn't your truth because you had an intellectual reaction rather than a body or emotional reaction. I'll tell you the truth about me and my values. We've covered some ideals that are really important to me, but we haven't even gotten to even one of my top 2. And for me, my top 1 really encompasses everything else. So I could say that I have a single priority, a single value in life, and everything else has to follow it. And I haven't even touched on it yet, but I'm exploring these others and seeing how they fit into my most important thing. And do they bring me closer to it or farther away? This is work that only you can do for yourself. And in my experience, you won't really ever feel completely aligned with yourself until you are living your value. There will always be a slight sense of uneasiness, discomfort, discontent, or maybe a gigantic sense of it, depending on how far you've drifted. And go ahead, ask if I am, as your chakra coach, living in perfect alignment. I am not. And I think that's okay for now. But if I can get a little closer each day through meditation, through action, through practice, through small and large changes, then at least I'm headed toward my truth. And that's the journey. That's the path. Where are you headed? That's what we're trying to understand as we go through each of these chakras and their values. This week, we're at the solar plexus chakra. It, as you may already know, governs self-will, self-empowerment, and is the part of us that takes action. I think I've mentioned before that I tend to be very centered in this space. It's the source of some of the things I like best about myself, and it's also the source of some of my biggest problems, which is an imbalance, right? So I do the work here, especially since I would say that it used to house my top priority, but now that priority has changed. So I've been working on healing here and moving all the excessive energy out and away from my solar plexus chakra. That said, though, I'm not putting a judgment on these values, either positive or negative. There's not a moral component here, only what matters to you, only what sits in your body as peace. So, the first of our solar plexus chakra values today is self respect. Now, I don't think that anyone would argue that self respect isn't important for everyone. It is. But for some people, this is and needs to be a priority. If you were never taught how to respect yourself, your needs, your boundaries, or if you grew up in an environment that actively resisted you developing self respect, this might surface as a priority for you. People coming out of or trying to leave abusive relationships or homes often find that building or rebuilding self respect is the first step towards recovery. This might involve some other work, growing your belief in your worthiness, but the value of self respect can help us find physical and emotional security and safety. Self respect is also the value that can help keep us from entering another bad situation. And living your values is an everyday process, not a one and done type situation. So if you're thinking that you must not value self respect because you consistently find yourself in less than ideal relationships, that might not necessarily be true. You may just not be quite done with your self respect journey. Building up the inner fire of the solar plexus chakra can help, along with therapy and the proper authorities, perhaps. But even in less dire situations, we can all have trouble with self respect. Saying yes to things when you want and need and really should for your own health, saying no is a form of violating your self respect. Never tending to yourself, not taking care of yourself, engaging in behaviors that are damaging to you physically or emotionally or mentally. These are signs that self respect is waning. And you don't have to change. Maybe that's not important to you, and it doesn't have to be. But if you say to yourself, I am meant to live a life filled with self respect, and that feels good in your body, notice that. Maybe you say it and it feels good because you already are living a life filled with self respect. It doesn't have to be your top priority to exist in your life. But if you say that, and credit to author Martha Beck for this little exercise, if you say that and it feels like something you long for but don't experience, maybe it's worth looking at. Is self respect a top value for you? Does it need to be? I'll keep saying it. Only you can decide that for yourself. The next value here I'd like to address is achievement. And this is a tricky one for me, so I'll do my best to speak to it. I've talked a lot on this show about my need to be productive, my need to have my achievements meet some outside approval, recognition for what I do, even if it wasn't something I wanted to do. I wanted to people to notice what I did, how much I did, how good I was doing what I did. But the problem with that for me was that it was just a moment of that feeling, followed by the thought that I needed to do more. Another thing, another promotion, another step forward on a path that I didn't build for myself, mind you. I was rushing down this achievement path that meant nothing to me. But along the way, someone once in a while would say, "Great job," or "You're a trooper," or "Atta girl," or whatever little thing it was that they said. And it wouldn't be enough. So I'd just keep rushing on, thinking that for sure the next thing would be the thing. But a couple of things about that. It wasn't. Nobody really cared that I did these things except for how it benefited them. And I just kept driving the expectation up that I would keep meeting their needs and my expectation that I would eventually do something that was enough, which I did not, because I was looking for outside validation for my achievements. which meant that I was trying to achieve things that mattered to other people, not to me. Does any of this sound familiar to you? I was so exhausted from my efforts to be recognized with a 1 second thank you and then 10 more achievements to reach and tasks to complete, none of which were going to make me happier or improve my life. So I'm trying to step out of that cycle of achievement. That cycle. Because achievement as a value isn't wrong or bad. We just need to be sure that when we set our goals, whatever that means, when we set our eyes on something to accomplish, it's something that we will find internal validation in, achievements that matter to you. Every week when I get a podcast episode out to you, that's a little achievement that matters to me. Of course, I love the validation of hearing from people that they enjoy it, but if I let that be the only reason to do the show, then it would cease to be an achievement that fills me up and would start to be an achievement that is for someone else. How do you value achievement? Is it something that matters to you a lot or not at all? When you think about your achievements, are you moving towards your truest, most authentic self, or are you moving away towards someone else's ideas? Or maybe you're achieving things for someone else, and that's fine with you because achievements aren't how you define yourself. All of these are just thoughts to explore. And before we move on, I wanted to point out that this is an example of how values can change in many ways. If I'm being totally honest with myself, this was a top value of mine for years. Even though I didn't want it to be, my actions showed that it absolutely was, and that was causing me to live out of alignment with my truth. I was acting on a value that wasn't really what I wanted to value, and that is a whole mess. But the solar plexus chakra is about action. So I needed to change my actions to help change my values. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but that was my work. It still is, really. Being sure that my actions, my achievements, if you will, are lined up with my top values as a human being. So values change. Our behavior around values changes. I can still value achievement, but for new reasons. So be flexible and patient with yourself. Don't be afraid to look at the messy parts of you because some of the most amazing things about you are in that mess. Which leads me to the third and final value for the solar plexus chakra that I'm going to talk about today: personal fulfillment, which you can probably see how that's related to achievement, but it's less goal oriented, less task oriented, less about getting things done. It may be that reaching a goal brings you personal fulfillment, but it might be something totally unrelated to accomplishment too. Personal fulfillment is more than just accomplishing something. It's about doing the things that bring you joy, not the things that you should do. Like, of course, I should go to the grocery store today, and I'll be glad that I do. But even that sense of accomplishment won't bring me joy. The act of doing it won't bring me joy. I don't feel fulfilled by going to the store, even though I might feel accomplished. Personal fulfillment is understanding what creates energy in you rather than what drains it. Personal fulfillment gives you that sense of being in the zone or in alignment or in a flow state. All these phrases that we use to describe this sensation that can't really be described, only experienced. Some people might call it their purpose or their dharma. The knowing that the thing you're doing is right and good and makes your heart soar. Is that feeling something that drives you? I think we all find it once in a while, and that's wonderful. A moment of personal fulfillment that surprises us and delights us. And while I think we should probably all be looking for a little more of that in life, that sensation isn't a top value for everyone. But if it is for you, What are you doing? What solar plexus chakra driven actions are you taking to feel personally fulfilled? Because if that's one of your truest values in life and your actions aren't in line with this solar plexus chakra ideal, you will feel unsettled and discontent and disconnected from yourself. If you're trying to fill up your soul with actions you take because other people think you should, it'll be an uphill battle. For me, I get a bit of personal fulfillment every time I meditate. Not because anyone else cares if I do, but because the act of sitting down to breathe brings me fulfillment in a way that answering work emails never will. This is not one of my two values in life, but it contributes to them, which is also a valid way to experience a chakra value. So, what is it for you? Do you want to place personal fulfillment at the top of your life? That's wonderful. And I think you should if that's what moves you. When you take action, any action, check in with your body to see how it feels. Do you feel that sense of completeness or a swell of joy in your heart? Notice the things in life that do bring you personal fulfillment and then prioritize them. It's the only way you're going to feel at peace with the deepest version of you, the part of you that values personal fulfillment. So that wraps up solar plexus chakra values. They're all very centered around action, which isn't a surprise for this particular energy center. I hope that sharing my struggles around this chakra's values was helpful and that I did an okay job speaking to them. Just because I had a challenge here doesn't mean that you shouldn't embrace these values if they're true to you. It's all about what lies within each of us and spending time with ourselves to figure out what our values truly are. And if the solar plexus chakra teaches us anything, it's that right action lined up with right values is key to experiencing the best of ourselves and life. I would love to spend some time connecting with you. So please remember to follow your chakra coach on Instagram or Facebook. It also occurred to me that not everyone likes to type a message or a writing or whatever. And then I remembered that there's a link in the show notes to leave me a voice message. It's literally on every show, but I forget about it sometimes. You can just click on it and leave me a message if you want to just say hi. Or if you have questions that you want me to answer, anything. It's just a fun way to communicate that I wanted to put out there. If you are enjoying this show and you want to help me out, tell your friends about it. Share an episode that you really liked with them. You can rate the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and a few other platforms, and that would absolutely be appreciated. You can leave a review. Let's share the ideas of energy and chakra work with the world. I know that it isn't for everyone, but I truly believe that as a community, we can bring more peace and joy to a world that desperately needs it. Until next time, my friends, have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.